Bonjour everyone, we have arrived to the 10th race of the season, the Canadian Grand Prix, and this is a weekend that promised to have a lot of surprises, so let's dive in. A little bit of backstory on this race. The Canadian Grand Prix has been held since 1961, however it only joined the Formula 1 calendar in 1967. This race bounced between a couple of tracks until it finally established its home in 1978 at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, named after the legendary Canadian driver who got his first win here. A fun fact about this race is that for some reason in 2005 it became the most watched race in the season. And it also became the third most watched sporting event that year, after obviously the Super Bowl and the Champions League final. And this track is no short of iconic moments in Formula 1. This is the race where back in 2007, a 22-year-old Lewis Hamilton got his first win in Formula 1. It was a chaotic race with a lot of crashes and a lot of safety cars, but Hamilton kept his cool and became the first black person to ever win a Formula 1 race, and also kickstart his career as a legend in the sport. A couple of years later, the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix became the longest race in Formula 1 history, lasting a total of 4 hours and 4 minutes. The start of the race was delayed because of the rain, and afterwards it was stopped for a total of 2 hours. There were 6 safety cars, 32 pit stops, and Jenson Button crept his way from the back of the grids all the way to the front and won the race because of a mistake from Sebastian Vettel. And up until today, it is still the longest Grand Prix in history. The two drivers that have the most amount of success on this track are Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, both with 7 wins. And the current lap record was set quite a while ago in 2019 by Valtteri Bottas. The Canadian Grand Prix is quite unique, and not just because of its history, but because of its location as well. You see, the track sits on Île Notre Dame, which is an artificial island built in 1967 for the Montreal World Expo. It was created using the earth extracted in the construction of the Montreal Metro and shaped to look similar to the island in Paris. In 1976, this island hosted the rowing competition for the Olympics, and 2 years later it was converted into a racetrack for Formula 1. Even though this island was artificially constructed, it has quite a few of inhabitants. Groundhogs are a recurring and somewhat comical part of the Canadian Grand Prix and have sort of become the unofficial mascot for this race. Drivers have occasionally encountered groundhogs on tracks, sometimes causing minor disruptions and sometimes big incidents. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that days before the Canadian Grand Prix, the marshals are sent onto the track to find the groundhogs and relocate them to a safer area. But obviously, since these animals live underground, you can't always find them, so we will probably see a couple of them during the weekend. The street circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a hybrid street track with a length of 4.3 kilometers long and 14 corners. The top speed is over 330 kilometers per hour, and each race lasts a total of 70 laps. There are 2 DRS zones, one on the long back straight before the final chicane and another after turn 7. One of the most important areas of this track is the so-called Wall of Champions, which earned its nickname in 1999 after 3 world champions hit that wall in the same race: Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, and Michael Schumacher. Unsurprisingly, since 1999, there have still been quite a few drivers who have hit that wall, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened this weekend as well. This Canadian Grand Prix is said to be a very interesting one because there are key factors that we have to take into account. Now, Max Verstappen has been handed a couple of penalty points in the Spanish Grand Prix due to his incident with George Russell, leaving him with a total of 11 penalty points out of 12. If a driver gets up to 12 penalty points, they get suspended for 1 race. Now, these penalty points do have an expiration date, which is 12 months after the infraction is committed. These penalty points are handed out to drivers when they commit a dangerous infraction during the race weekend in any of the sessions. And 2 of Max's penalty points will expire the 30th of June. Max will have to drive as cleanly as possible for the next 2 races until he has a little bit more breathing room to commit some infractions. It will be really interesting to see if Max Verstappen's driving style changes at all. I personally don't think it will, because Max doesn't really care about penalties. Also, this year it seems really easy to gain penalty points. I mean, Jack Doohan gained 4 penalty points in 2 races, which is quite a lot. I don't know, we'll see what happens, but I think this gives a little bit of an edge to the next 2 races, and it's going to make things a lot more interesting. Another situation that is developing this weekend is Lance Stroll. Now, up until filming this video, it has not been announced whether he will be participating in the Canadian Grand Prix or not, and I find it really sad given that this is his home race if he wouldn't be able to participate. But on the other hand, it will be really interesting to bring in a reserve driver. Naturally, the top candidate is Felipe Drugovich. Drugovich is an incredible driver and someone who everyone in Formula 1 has said he should be in this category. However, there were no seats available for him in Aston Martin. And this will be an incredible opportunity for him to show that he can drive in Formula 1. However, he is also set to drive in the 24 hours Le Mans race. Now, the Le Mans race is a 24 hours endurance race, and it is up there in importance with the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indy 500. So it is quite a big deal, and I don't know if he will be willing to skip this important race to go into the Canadian Grand Prix for one race. And another name that has been circulating is Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas is technically Mercedes' reserve driver. However, there have been rumors going around that he might be one of the candidates to go into Lance Stroll's car if he is unable to compete. But again, at this point, no one really knows what is going to happen. Now, something that I find a little bit interesting and quite exciting is that if you go back and watch my 2025 predictions video, I made two predictions that I didn't think would happen at all. And that is that Max Verstappen would not participate in one race because he got suspended, and another one was Valtteri Bottas would drive in Formula 1 this year. Given how close these two things are from actually happening, in my mind, those are a win. But now it's time to move on to my less successful type of predictions, which is the podium. For third place, I went for someone who I want to be on the podium. I don't really know at this point if it's realistic or not, and that is Lewis Hamilton. Now, after the Imola and Monaco Grand Prix, I was really excited for Ferrari. They seemed to be on the right track, and everyone was talking about how Barcelona was going to bring in the new improvements and Ferrari was going to go back to the front, and nothing really happened. I mean, yes, Charles Leclerc technically made it to the podium, but the Ferraris weren't doing all that great during the race, or at least not as good as I was expecting them to do. But Charles Leclerc finally made it onto a 2025 race podium, and I'm hoping that Hamilton will be able to follow suit and claim a podium of his own. And given that he has won this race 7 times before, I would hope that he is quite comfortable with this track and will be able to do something out of the box. And maybe plan his own strategy while he's at it. For second place, I decided to go with Oscar Piastri. Now, obviously, Oscar has been doing an incredible job this year. He is leading the championship quite comfortably, I have to say. He doesn't seem very fazed being in the front, and he's only 1 race win away from matching Charles Leclerc. So Oscar Piastri being on the podium this year is a no-brainer at this point. I have to admit, sadly, I'm starting to find it a little bit boring, but that's why I decided to put him in second place. For first place, I went with Lando Norris. Barcelona Grand Prix was supposed to be the race where all the other teams catch up to the McLarens in their improvements, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. McLaren seems to be quite far away from the rest of the teams, and at this point it seems to be more about which of the McLarens is going to be number 1 and which is going to be number 2. We'll see if Lando Norris is able to match Oscar Piastri in the Canadian Grand Prix, and I think it will be really interesting for the championship if we breach the gap between the top 2 again. So these are my podium predictions for this race, and as always, I asked both Gemini and ChatGPT to see what they think is going to happen during this weekend. So Gemini's prediction is for third place, Lando Norris. Second place position goes to Max Verstappen. And Gemini says that first place is going to go to Oscar Piastri. And moving on to ChatGPT's prediction. Third place is going to George Russell. Second place is going to Charles Leclerc. And ChatGPT's first position goes to Max Verstappen. I'm not really sure about ChatGPT's predictions because not putting any of the McLarens on the podium is quite a risky prediction to make, but if it happens, it will be entertaining. But this is all for the Canadian Grand Prix preview. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know down in the comments what your top 3 predictions for this weekend are. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram if you want more Formula 1 content, and I will see you all next time.